That's what music does, isn't it? It just sort of transports you from the present time to, like, say, the future or the past, or depending on what is going on in the music as well.
You're listening to Let's Make a Mixtape, a collaborative playlisting podcast where each episode features a different guest selecting a song based on a prompt. The prompt for this season is Homesick, and my guest today is Eno Williams, the London-born Nigerian singer who fronts the band Ibibio Sound Machine. Ibibio Sound Machine fuses West African funk with post-punk and electronic music into something that is so full of life and incredibly fun to listen to. Ibibio is truly a global band with a global sound that just so happens to be, in a way, close to my home here in Durham, where their current label, Merge Records, is based. Ibibio Sound Machine just released Pull the Rope back in May, which they're following up with a new EP titled The Black Note, which is out next week on September 4th. You can hear The Black Note when it's released, as well as Pull the Rope and Ibibio's previously released albums wherever you stream your music, and you can purchase a copy at mergerecords.com. But enough of my yapping, let's make a mixtape. Eno, thank you so much for joining me on this season of Let's Make a Mixtape. We are, of course, talking about home, what songs remind us of home, and you picked Soul Makossa by Manu Dibango.
That's right, and by Manu Dibango, yes.
Why did you pick the song? It's lovely, by the way. It was new to me, but it got me grooving.
Oh yeah,
I loved it.
it's one of those songs that, like, I think as far as I can remember, my stepdad used to, like, love listening to it, and he would play it every now and then in the house, and my mom would dance to it, and it was always just around, just just in the house. We'd hear it like so many times, and then I think over the years I would hear, like, it's been like sampled by so many different people. Even Michael Jackson sampled it, and even, like, currently there's it. So, and I kept thinking, oh my god, I remember that song. I mean, then of course I got much older, and I mean I always loved Manu Dibango anyway, just because, like, I think what is one of the music that I was introduced to, obviously growing up in Nigeria, even though I was born in England, but spent most of my childhood in Nigeria. I mean, I just loved the music, the hook, the horn section. I mean, I guess that was my first introduction to just hearing, like, horns played on a track, and just the arrangement, and just his voice, and the lyrics, and just the way, like, he just fuses, like, the whole, like, sort of trying to, like, mix Western music with African music, but still have a groove to it. And I think and it's just one of those, like, really danceable songs. You could hear it anywhere, and it's a timeless song, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like that's true of that genre as a whole. There's you said your mom would dance around to it in the house. I feel like there's something about this type of music that if it's not causing you to involuntarily move, you're probably dead.
Exactly. In fact, I think we actually once got into trouble. Was, like, obviously, like, there was one time my sisters and I, like, we were supposed to, I think we had been doing, like, homework or something, and one of my sisters wasn't feeling well, and my dad, like, was away. And we thought, like, he wasn't going to come back from work for, like, a while, and then, like, we're, like, all, like, grooving. It was that. And then I think, and also the remix of the Michael Jackson song that had the Makossa line in it, and then we're, like, all just, like, vibing to it, like literally just lost in music. And then we didn't hear that my dad, like, the car had pulled into the driveway, and then so, like, and literally, like, the door opens, and, like, oh no, like, oh, dad's back. And, like, we were all supposed to be doing homework or doing some chores or something, and then we just got carried away, just partying away and booking away. I was like, right, is that what you guys do when, like, I'm away and everything? Where's your homework and everything? Because my dad was, like, so strict and everything, it kind of always takes me back to that story, that moment as well. But I mean, it was fun because at the end of the day, it was like, well, as long as you're listening to, like, clean, good music anyway, and it was cool after all.
That's hilarious. I could see. I mean, it's easy to get lost in this music. It carries
Yeah,
you
it just
away.
carries it with like grooving, it with like dancing, like proper having a proper rave, and everything. And yeah, but it was cool. It was cool. And I mean, and even till today, when I hear every now and then, I'd hear on the radio or just hear like the Manu Dibango track and all that with the horn lines or with the sample, and it's just like, yeah, that's the groove right there.
I love it.
Yeah.
What what was it like, growing up in Nigeria? What was the music?
I mean, we did listen. We listened to like everything. My parents like sort of introduced us to like every type of music. Like we listened to like everything that was going on at the time, like all the West African like high life, and a lot of what was going on in Africa, like Angelique Kidjo, Miriam Makeba, and then music of the West as well. We listened to a lot of stuff like James Brown, like Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, like all the like punk stuff that was coming out of England as well, and all the
Mm.
stuff up out of America at the time. So, I mean, to be honest, our ears were sort of introduced to like so much music. So I guess that would have been just the house was always there was always music in the house. There was always parties. If it wasn't my mom and my dad throwing a party, with my mom and my uncles, and so there was always music. There was always like tapestry of all sorts of music just playing around. So we're introduced to like a lot of like different types of music over time.
Amazing. Is doing a little bit of preliminary reading from some past interviews. Was like Fela Kuti like really prominent when you were growing up?
He was prominent, but the thing was because my parents were so strict. I had friends that when we were in like secondary school, they would have gone to the shrine, to see Bella's
Hmm.
music live and everything. So I would be hearing stories about, what went down, the dances and the music and just the whole Afro, just the fact that he was just doing something just visionary, something that no one had ever done before.
Hmm.
But at the time, because obviously he was speaking, I think his music was all about speaking for the people. But in some ways, he was considered a troublemaker. So
Mm-hmm.
some kids would have been shielded from his music at the time, and I was one
Hmm.
of the kids that was shielded from his music because it was considered as okay, it's a bit of like radical or like more like activist kind of music, which obviously he was speaking for a lot of things that were happening at the time. So it wasn't until I got older that actually learned to like just appreciate a lot of what he was saying at the time. So, but yeah, that kind of his music was quite a big influence on what we ended up putting out.
Yeah, yeah. I guess talk a little bit about that influence. It feels like it's a very global band, and you have a lot
Yes.
of very global sounds too. It's I mean you have those layers of Afrobeat and
Yeah.
high life, which I had not heard before.
I mean, high life to be. I mean, yeah, high life is very much like it's music of like West Africa, is like music of Nigeria, music of Ghana, and of course with the band because there's like we're all from like different parts of the world. We've got English, we've got Australian, we've got Ghanaian, Nigerian, and so all this like it's like London kind of felt like a melting pot with all our different collective musical taste. I mean, for example, Alfred, who's like a guitarist, he's of a Ghanaian background, and so he's really like heavy on that whole high life genre and everything. And so that's sort of the tapestry, the undertones that you hear in the record, and then of course you got the electronics as well, and the jazz as well, and that's obviously boils down to the fact that you got people like Max, who's like one of the producers on most of our records. He's like from a jazz background, and Scott, who's a trumpet player, and also plays the keys as well. And Tony, who's very much more on the electronic side, but also from a jazz background as well. So you hear a lot of all that mixture in all of our sound, pretty much. London is home also. So to be honest, there's like music just around London generally. There's like always like the whole neo soul, the jazz scene as well, like old school music as well. So that has also like informed a lot of like what we listened to like over the years. But I mean, there was also the traditional music growing up in Nigeria as well. Like at Christmas times, you'd have a lot of like more the traditional music that everybody else was listening to. That wasn't like really mainstream music, but music that people would like sit around the fire and listen to, and there'll just be like local musicians just playing like the local traditional instruments as well.
Talk a little bit about the instrumentation that you've layered in. I mean, you have a lot of electronic elements, you have a lot of horn elements. How have those instruments been woven into what you're doing now and how you see it progressing?
With a lot of the electronic sound, because we were trying to like kind of do something like more lean more like to the future and mix the electronic sounds and the traditional sound. There was a lot of elements of like where, for example, there is like an instrument called the kologo, which Alfred plays. It's like a two-string guitar. When played, Max would sometimes put that through like a tape machine and reproduce the sound, for example, just to give it more of electronic sound as well. And there was a lot of like, playing like the horn instruments through a sampler as well, and just getting trying to get like a more electronic sound. And then also stuff like it's kind of like a bass drum. It sounds quite it's played by hand. That's played, and that's also fed through like kind of a synth and stuff, just to give it like more of an electronic sound. So there's a lot of traditional, like using like traditional instruments and then trying to like make them sound electronic, just to give it that like electronic element to it, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, and it's super conducive because it's so dancey. Again, I mean, the same thing with with the classic stuff and with what you're
Yeah.
doing. I mean, if you're not involuntarily moving, you're probably dead. It's so movable. It just yeah, I love it. Just it feels
Yeah.
like it's full of life, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I mean that's what we try. I mean that's sort of our kind of vibe to keep the music positive and uplifting, and just to bring that positive energy and a message of hope, and just to make people forget, just sort of forget themselves for a minute, and just take them to somewhere, like sort of escape to somewhere else for them.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's such a powerful function of music,
Yeah,
and
but
I
that's what music does, isn't it? It just sort of transports you from the present time to like say the future or the past, or depending on what is going on in the music as well. Yeah.
I absolutely this have you ever played a show where the audience was not moving and it was weird, or is it always like the audience is
The
always dancing?
audience is always dancing, to be honest. I mean, the one time we would have done like a sit down show, we still managed to get people to get up and dance.
Yeah, it's got to be kind of awkward on stage playing a sit down show. I can imagine
Yeah.
with this kind of music.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, I think usually it's kind of, yeah, like you say, it's involuntary though. The minute you hear the music, it's like, yeah, you either get up and dance. Like, yeah, something in within you that connects with the beat or with the the spirit or something. Yeah, there's always an element of the music that is gonna move you to get up and move somewhat. And I guess because music is a universal language, isn't it? And, even if you don't understand, what the lyrics are, sometimes the music is sort of the transcendentary element that will make you move.
It's yeah, universal language, and it just there's something alive about it that I feel like connects us all, and when we're all tuned to it, it's a beautiful damn thing.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, growing up in Nigeria and that musical background had a big
Yeah.
influence, and then you also talked
Yeah.
about how London is home as well. What
Yeah.
kind of influences did London have on you musically?
I mean, the fact that London itself is sort of like a cultural melting pot with people from all sorts of different backgrounds. Like in London, you've got like, like everywhere you go, like there's clubs where you can go and listen to music. There's, places where you can go and listen to records, and there's like music, like there's so much different kinds of music. There's like the grime, there's like the bit of the R&B, there's jazz, there's like a bit of Afrobeat as well. So that's like a mixture of everything going on in London. And because I feel like because of the fact that we're all from different backgrounds, I guess that really just helped like to create to help to create the sound that has come out of the band. Yeah.
So you have a new record coming out. Any kind of direction that you've gone with this record and sonically, or
We've sort of kept with the electronics, but have kind of pushed the boundary a bit more in terms of just making it more drum heavy and just more beat heavy, but also like focusing a lot more on songwriting and song structures and actual songs. Just you telling, just kind of going back to the main crux of storytelling and just getting people, just trying to get people a bit more involved with the lyrics and the songs, just so that people can sort of sing along, because we find that in the with the past albums, people have always wanted to like sing along when we're gigs and everything. So it felt like only natural to kind of get those kind of catchy hooks and lines that people can just maybe sing along to, or just join into.
join in with song and
Yeah.
dance? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Hey, so you mentioned storytelling as a prominent focus. Tell me, I guess, a little bit more about that storytelling aspect that you take with your songwriting.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, when we started with the first record, it was obviously influenced by a lot of the stories that I got told growing up as a child, folk tales and everything, and sort of just went back to that whole thing of just trying to like just tell a story. Could be a story like something that a moral story, or something that talks about a story about love, or a story about what we're actually experiencing in today's world, sort of bringing people together, uniting people, and pooling, or just the fact that we're all the same. Regardless, of where we are, we could just be who we are. So all like those stories, everybody's stories, my story, your story, and just the story of the world generally is just trying to put that all together and just make us all see that at the end of the day, we can all really come together and we can be united, and we can, realize that we're really the same.
I love that. That's so powerful. Yeah, and I love that that's sonically kind of represented too. With just, I mean, you're pulling from so many influences. It's such a
Exactly. Yeah.
full sound too, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
William Onyeabor, having like grown up with his music before it, there's that, I guess there's the resurgence of his music a couple years
Yeah.
back.
There was in fact, yeah, I think that when the resurgence happened, I remember hearing the song. It was when the going is good and so many people, and I thought to myself, in my head, I could remember where I was when I first heard that. Could remember just being, it was like in a market, because my granny had like a distributing sort of network in like one of the main markets in Lagos, and she was one of the first distributors of Nestle products in Nigeria. So she had like a big warehouse where like like all the traders would come to her to buy all their products pretty much. And I remember one Friday evening, as we were like sort of shutting down, and the market was sort of, the whole area gets turned into like a street party basically, and then that was one of the songs that just like kind of kicked off the night. And I remember hearing like all the electronic, the synths, and I was like just blown away. I was like, what the heck, what is this? Like, I've never really heard anything. I must have been quite young anyway, and I just wondered, like, that is like just so cool, just the beat, the synth, just the synth lines, just like like computer sounds. I mean, it just sounded like something out of nowhere. And then I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, I remember this. And then everybody was like, oh my God, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? And then I started telling people, like, oh my God, I heard this when I was young, when I was, growing up in Nigeria. The guy was William Onyepo. He was William Onyepo. And I remember, like, so many people used to talk about the fact that, yeah, he was like this, like, mysterious kind of producer that just happened to, come back from overseas and had bought all this like electronic instrument which a lot of people no one knew how to use it but himself. So he had like this studio down in the east where it was just him and all these electronic synths and keyboards and everything. And he used to wear this cowboy hat apparently that made him like, yeah, he looked like a cowboy pretty much. But and then it kind of there was like a nickname going around that he was like an African cowboy. So I kind of just, and then when it just like took me back to that as well, and I thought, oh my goodness. And everybody was like just asking Raven, like, who the heck is this person? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? I was like, I remember this person so much. And then I later saw a documentary and I was like, it just took me back down memory lane. I was like, oh my goodness, I still remember that well. But it's a shame though, because I mean, he stopped making music for like many years, but then his music just carried on, but I guess he was like so ahead of his time anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's amazing too. I mean, you talked about hearing the song and then being transported back into this moment in time, and again, another powerful thing that music can do.
Yeah, exactly. It takes you back, you remember, like they always say, music makes you remember,
Mhm.
where you were at some point, either a point in time or physically being with somebody or just something. I mean, music just has that power,
Yeah.
to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. Are there any other songs that have like had a strong, I guess, pulled you back home just by
Oh
listening?
God, there's so many. I mean, to be honest, let me think. What else? I mean, Lord, there's just so many. I mean, Angelique Kidjo for one example. I mean, and every time I listen to Angelique Kidjo songs, because with my sisters, we used to watch a lot of like back then. I think this was way before MTV. Actually, we used to have all these like videos that would just play, and it was just music that came from Africa, music from the West. And I remember her video. There was a lot of her videos that would play. Um, I think Agolo was one of them, and because she was one of the first, probably the first black women that I would have seen in music, and I was just really inspired by her, just by her voice and what she was doing at the time. So yeah.
Have you played in Nigeria with the
Not
band? Not
yet.
yet.
We've been asked twice to go, but something always happened and it clashed and it just fell through. So we're hoping that very soon.
Are there any favorite places that you've toured to?
Oh, North Carolina.
Oh, really? Oh, shucks.
We've always loved coming
Yeah.
back to North Carolina every time. Yeah, so
Are
we
you
hope
are
that.
you is that on the tour schedule for
Yeah,
this next record?
we'll see, we'll
All
see, we'll
right,
see.
all right, all right, all right.
We should be there soon, hopefully. Yeah, soon.
Yeah, I very much look forward to it. It feels like the live show is just such a vibrant, lively experience for both you and the audience as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, we both. I always feel like the audience just give us so much love,
yeah.
and it's just like we just like sort of give it right back, and yeah,
Hmm.
it's like a two-way thing. So it's always good. It's always good, when we come out and the audience are like, on the ride with us. So it's always a good thing. So we are thankful because obviously without the audience, really, it's kind of pointless, really.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You want, I mean, if you're making music that's meant to be a communal
Yeah.
experience, you want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
there's that community to
Yes,
experience it
that's
and give
true.
that energy
That's
back.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
I love this style of music. It's so much
Thank
life.
you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for making some just very fun record. Like I was preparing for this and going through your discography. I mean, again, same thing. Like just couldn't stop moving. It was
Oh,
just,
thank you. I mean,
it's just
and then the guys are just like the guys are just amazing as well. The whole band, they're all like just really, really talented, and we've just all been on the ride together.
yeah. Oh, and it's you've been doing this for about 10 years as a group. Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's true.
That's
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And how did it all come about? If I go
Oh
way
my
back
gosh,
to a
go
early
back,
question there.
way back to how it started. It was pretty much myself and Max at the time sort of were like toying around ideas with the whole just Ibibio lyrics, just the storytelling to start with, and then sort of telling him about a lot of the stories, just singing some of the stories, and he was like, "Oh my god, that's quite rhythmic, the language itself." And then so gradually that sort of came together, and then we had Alfred, who's like I said, of Ghanaian background with the highlight background. He also came along with his own like heavily skilled influence of highlight music and put down a few ideas as well. And then we had like then Tony and Scott, who are more like from the electronic background. They kind of brought that all together, and then a few of our other friends that we worked with at the time also put some ideas together, and that's how it all grew. Really, kind of was more like a bedroom project that just came up organically and just formed that way.
That's it could probably no longer fit in a bedroom now. Too much energy.
No, it can't now. It can't. It's grown past the bedroom.
Well, is there anything that you want to talk about with this new record? Anything that you want to say or promote, or anything that we talked about or that we didn't talk about home, or that you want to?
I feel like we've talked about everything. I mean, it's just music always, like we said, music always like takes you back to a place, or a person, or reminds you of somewhere. And I feel like with the new record, we're just kind of more just focusing still on our positive energy and bringing people together, really. And the fact we're just trying to pull. It's like a pull the rope, but pulling not against, but trying to pull everyone together, type of thing. Really, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And congratulations on 10 years of doing the thing here, and some phenomenal records. Very excited for Pull the Rope to hit people's eardrums.
Can't wait for it to come out. Can't wait for it to come out now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and
thank you so much
helping me to make a mixtape. Very much enjoyed your song selection, Soul Makossa.
Thank you.
Wonderful, and very much looking forward to the new record. Thank you so much.
Hope to see you when we come out there soon.
Thank you so much to Eno for joining me for this episode of Let's Make a Mixtape, and thank you, dear listener, for tuning in. To hear Eno's song selection as well as the selections of my previous guests, subscribe to the show playlist on Spotify or YouTube, links to which can be found in the show notes at letsmixtape.com. Please be sure to subscribe and rate the show on whatever platform you're listening on to feed the algorithm gods, and to make sure you don't miss next week's episode, on which I talk with KP of Black Belt Eagle Scout. Thanks for tuning in. All editing and recording was done by little ol' me. Intro and transition music was recorded by Scotty Sandwich.